Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial on JavaScript concepts. Today's concept that we're going to be talking about is object destructuring. So object destructuring is a feature in JavaScript that allows you to break down an object and extract their values out of them in a concise and convenient manner that helps you do it efficiently without having to assign different variables to it. I'll give you a use case where you actually take the value of the name, the age, the occupation without using object destructuring first, and then we'll use a version of object destructuring. That way you'll know the reason why this is more effective and it ultimately optimizes your code to be much more cleaner. So in this case, I'm gonna use a constant variable person name in this case. Actually, I'll just write name in this case. Name, which is equal to person.name. And we can also do the same for age, equal person dot age. Now you notice this is taking some time already out of the text writing all these three lines, which is a little bit inefficient because I'm accessing the variable along with assigning it. But at the end of the day, there is a much faster way. But before we do that, let's just console log the name, age, occupation. So now that we have the name, age, occupation, if we would run this piece of code, we will get John, 30 for the age, and software developer as the occupation. However, there is an issue that we're running into here, and that's that this takes a much more time than object destructuring. So this is how object destructuring works. You want to first assign the declaration of the variable, and then with your curly braces, you'd want to assign a name, age, occupation. Now, notice how these variables that we are assigning are coming to conflict with these variables because we're actually making new variables. At the same time, you want to also make sure whenever you're using object destructuring that the variables that you're declaring here are equivalent to the keys that we're using in our object here. So you notice name is equal to name in our variable declaration, then age is equivalent to whatever we're saying in age. Basically, you have to match the key in order to extract the value. Now, if we were to save this and run this piece of code, we shall get the same values. John, 30, software developer. Now, object destructuring works in this way to make it much more convenient, but there are other scenarios or not other scenarios, rather there's also additional features we could use in object destructuring. So like I mentioned before, we have to have the exact same key value over here in order to extract it. However, what if you want a different name for that variable? So you could actually change the name of that variable by just putting the colon there and then writing whatever name you want for the variable. So this actually renames the variable into full name. So if we were to go here, and sorry, I will always use camel case, so I had to change there. But ultimately what happens here is that because we chose full name to be the name of the variable, after we extracted it here, if we run the code, it should print the same values, John, 30, and software developer. So this is a way for you to ultimately modify the variable name whilst also extracting it using object destructuring. Now there's other things you can also do, such as checking the location. So by that I mean, if we have a location on the person, but in the object there's no key that corresponds to location, we could assign a default value to that location. So if we were to put location here, you'd notice there is no location key matching with the person object. So what we can do is assign a default variable being New York. So if we were to assign a default variable for New York there, and let's just include it in our log statement and save. So if we were to run this now, you'll notice that not only does it do John, 30, software developer, and New York, but it also is using the default variable that we assigned because there is no mention of the location. Now we can add the location here. Let's just change it to Boston. because remember, this is a default value. So if we have a location already, it will overwrite it back to Boston in this case. So we run it here, you'll notice it gets printed John, 30 software developer, and Boston. There's one more feature, guys, I want to talk to you all about, but that's also nested object destructuring. So let's just say we have a license, which is an object over here, and the name is MIT license. Now, how do we access the name value here? Well, it's simple. In this case, what we can do is, this is getting a little bit cluttered, but we can go to license here, and we could actually break down this object too. Because remember, at the end of the day, notice in this scenario, we're reassigning this variable into its own name. However, what we can do in this case is do the same with that object license. So with this license object, we could destructure the value into name. So now you notice if we were to print the name here, in this case, and we just run this scenario, you'll notice we get MIT. And the reason why we get MIT is because we're likewise how we are extracting the name, occupation, location, etc. We can do the same with a nested object while we're doing our object destructuring to extract the name of that license. So that's just a very basic, well, that'll be covering most of what object destructuring can do. I hope this helps you guys with object destructure in JavaScript. You can use this in very complex objects to make your work more concise and understandable, and also less lines for your code. Overall, just optimizing your coding. And yeah, that should be all from my end. Thank you so much for your time. Take care. Have a nice day, and bye.